Ngani. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great.
Hey.
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you. Hello to our viewers. This is Philarsande Careers, the second episode. I am so excited. Firstly, guys, before we get anywhere, this is just basically where we talk everything careers. We get different people that are doing different careers and they're telling us about their wonderful careers and try to get you to be interested in the career so that maybe you could just maybe come in and do what they do. So welcome to my channel. My name is Philarsande, as I mentioned. And firstly, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your great support in the first episode we had with Usifeziwe Ndlovu, our chartered accountant, who was telling us more about what is happening in her world. But also thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the video and thank you for sharing it with your friends. That is helping us to grow the community. And to you who's coming to join us for the very first time, welcome to you. Please subscribe and please just ask more people to watch and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when more videos like these come up, you can know. So in today's episode, as you can see, I am featuring a very beautiful woman who is a friend of mine. She happens to be my friend. And like, she's like the most yellow bone friend I have. So her name is Khanya. Hello, Khanya.
Oh my gosh, hi, and I can't believe you had to throw that in after all these years ago. Like,
I thought I was yellow until I met you. How are you doing, friend?
I'm well, thank you, friend. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Thank you for agreeing to join me. I'm so excited to be having this conversation. So guys, Khanya is working at one of the financial services institution, and today she will be telling us about her role, what it entails, and all that information that we need to know. So I think, let's just start there. Like, what do you do for a living?
Okay, so
other than being
as
a
you
cool
said,
mom and a cool friend.
That's my first job, actually. I'm a mom. Job number one, especially working from home. That job is hectic. But as you said, I work for one of the biggest financial institutions in Africa, and I am the head of risk and governance, looking specifically after the human capital, or as people know it, human resources department. Okay. So anything that relates to human resources, human processes, human regulations, people regulations, let me say, compliance, all of that stuff, that's my role and my responsibility. And I look after this across all the employees in the group.
In the group.
Yeah. That's over 55,000 employees.
Like, I'm imagining that it's so huge. Yeah. And do you like it? Do you enjoy it?
I absolutely love it. I think every single day is a new learning curve for me. The role that I play is not particularly what I studied. Okay. So I think I'm very engaged, and I love the nuances that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, dealing with 55,000 employees across the African continent is quite an interesting realm of responsibilities. So, you know, there'll be something that might come up in, let's say, Tanzania, where there's a law that I haven't even heard about that I need to solve for. So it definitely keeps me on my toes. It definitely keeps my brain working every single day. And I love the fact that every day is different. I think that's the one thing that keeps me engaged in this role, is that every single day an email can pop into my inbox, and you know, it's something I've never had to deal with before, and I have to go out there, investigate, and find out for myself. And that's what I think, and that's what I love about it. It's definitely not a mundane job where it's just every day you can predict what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Thank you for that. Like, I'm just imagining how fulfilled you must be then with regards to that, because I mean, you spoke about how it's different every day. And I think every single person desires to have something like that, because then it challenges you. It gives you a reason to wake up. Like, you will be surprised with a new problem that requires you to think outside of the box, and your brain is constantly working. I like that very much. And what is it that you don't like about your job, given that you have to deal with so many countries and so many people, individual people? What could you tell us about that?
I would say that not something that I don't like, because I love my job. Like I said, I love all aspects, but let me say the difficulty that comes with my job is also the fact that I deal with a lot of people.
Okay.
And delivery through people is quite difficult.
Okay.
Sometimes you come across people who are not as passionate as me about their roles. Sometimes you come across people who are unsure about themselves and are not as responsive as I'd like them to be. Sometimes you come across people whose quality of delivery is just not according to the standard that I'm used to.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's probably the most difficult part about it. But again, like I said, this role, you roll with the punches. If somebody gives me something mediocre, I know I have to sleep late, upgrade it a little bit, and make sure that when I put it out there, it represents who I am.
Sure.
So yeah, I think working through people is probably the most difficult thing, because I think pretty much every single aspect of my role requires me to consult, speak to someone, engage. I speak to, oh my word, there's something that we have in our emails which tells you how many people you speak to on a week-by-week basis. And I was so shocked that I respond to over 200 emails in a week. So I think, yeah, working with people is wonderful, but also has its challenges.
It also has its challenges. Yeah, I can imagine, especially when you have like a solid work ethic, and we don't appear the same. We don't have the same work ethic. Thank you so much for that, and for your honesty as well. I think with a role in human capital, it is that, like, you can expect to not deal with a lot of people in other departments, in other roles, but not in human capital. Human capital, human resources is about
human.
So yeah, I think maybe let's just go into, you did mention a bit that this is not something you studied. I'm not sure if we should talk about how you went into this career and how you ended up in the role, or for somebody that's interested in getting into human resources, what do they need to study from high school? So in high school, is it important, the subjects that they have? Let's say we're talking to a grade 11 student and they've chosen their subject already. Is it something that can be done for them when they go to tertiary? Is it yeah, let me not complicate it. Let me just say, what do you need to study as to get into your field?
Okay, so I'm going to give a bit of history about me, because I think it's important to answer the question that you're asking, because as much as I think subject choice is absolutely important, but I also feel that it's important for people to also know that you're not stuck in a career just because you made that choice from the beginning. So I know making careers and subject choices is a very big thing at a young age. But if you do, like me, find yourself in a place where you are in a career that no longer fulfills you, there's absolutely avenues for you to venture out and do something different. So I did a BCom in internal auditing. So I started my career as an auditor. Yawn. I'm saying that very lightly. So I went to the University of Pretoria and I did a BCom in internal auditing, and I thought that was absolutely what I wanted to do. But there was always this niggling thing in me where I really, really wanted to work with people. I considered things like psychology. I considered things like doing a postgraduate in human resources. However, life just happened to work out well for me, that I found myself in the position that I'm in. So when it comes to subject choices, I would advise people to choose subjects which are their strengths, because naturally subjects that are your strengths are things that you're good at. And most likely when you're good at something, you'll be passionate about it. So a lot of the time,
it's an interesting view, actually, because usually with subject choices we select based on where we want to go, not based on what we are strong at. So that's an interesting one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like.
Absolutely, absolutely. You may think that you're going to be an amazing chartered accountant, but your accounting and maths marks are saying something different.
Babes.
But your history marks are you doing the most in history, and you're passionate about studying for history. There's so many. I mean, the world is so dynamic and the world is so big that you can literally create a career out of anything.
Yeah.
So I would say that, being an adult who found themselves in a career that they weren't necessarily passionate about, because, back in the day, it was, you had to do a BCom in something, and if you were smart, you had to do a BCom in something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I even tried the chartered accountancy route. I did a BCom in accounting in my first year. I absolutely hated it. I was like, I cannot be looking at financial statements my whole life. So,
We
so I'm just saying, FYI, change is good. So second year, I went and I did internal auditing, because for me that was a little bit more around understanding the business from a whole perspective, rather than just looking at one aspect, the financial statements, etc. So when it comes to human capital, wow, there's a range of careers that come with human capital. It's not only about being a human capital practitioner, let me say, where you're just dealing with, recruitment, where you're dealing with grievances, let me say, where you're dealing with employees, making sure, there's so much that has emerged in that market that, there's obviously aspects around intelligence, let me say, where, excuse me, there's a lot of, obviously with technology evolving and technology becoming the center of our lives. Similarly, in human capital, the careers that are available are absolutely aligned to where the world is going. And interestingly, the traditional stuff that you would normally have in human capital has now become almost secondary, where the understanding of technology, the understanding of systems is a key aspect, I think, in every single career. In every single career, you cannot go into any single career without understanding technology, without understanding data being something that is very big and topical out there. And just to explain why data is important, data is basically a collection of information, and a collection of information allows you to make decisions. So in human resources, let's say, for example, you're collecting data and you see that we've got a lot of employees that are leaving. Why are people leaving the organization? So those kind of things then inform strategic decisions around what then the organization needs to do to move and propel itself forward. So I would say that I think human capital is wonderful because of the fact that, you can get in with various kind of degrees, but just considering the aspects that sit in the human capital world. So obviously, like I said, there's the value chain from when an employee comes through the door to when an employee leaves. So much stuff sits in between that, there's behavioral science. Behavioral science is also another nice one that is emerging in the human capital world, where, like I said, looking at employee behavior. I mean, we've been working from home for a long time, and we're already starting to consider things like going back into the office. So what are the kind of things that would attract our employees to go back to the office? We need to reopen the coffee shops in the building because maybe people love their coffee. So those kind of things are the kind of, let me say, the kind of range that is available in the field.
That you deal with. Okay. And typically in varsity, do we have, if like if somebody's inspired already from what you're saying and they know for sure that, oh my gosh, this is something I'm passionate about, in varsity, what is available? Or let me say tertiary. Do we have your BCom human resources? Do we have, what sort of courses can they take as a start?
Yeah. So obviously, yes, most varsities do offer BCom or BA in human resources. There's organizational development. There's organizational psychology.
Okay.
In our field, there's a lot of industrial psychologists as well.
Okay.
So, you know, ultimately, when you're dealing with people, you need to have people skills, which is why I think a lot of the people that a lot of the people that sit in the fields definitely have that whole psychology kind of subjects, let me say. But the great thing as well is that a lot of our universities are very flexible around the subject choices that you have when you go into your university. So even if you do a BCom in, I don't know, for example, BCom in HR, you can add on, if it's missing, you can add on a technology subject to enhance your degree, kind of thing. So as I said, there's so much out there. If you just research and see the top skills in human capital, I think the internet has a lot of information out there and a lot of guidelines around the kind of subjects that are available. But like I said, there is so many options, so many options.
Okay. No, thank you so much for that information. Because for me, I just got stuck in your world and you telling me about all these things, to simple consideration like the idea of integrating back into working in the office, things like that. Like if you're doing financial statements, the only thing you care about is how much it's going to cost for you to to rent out that office space, or the facilities and all of that. But at psychology, the people psychology is not something I'm thinking about, and it's quite exciting. Like, data also, I mean, you're dealing with like 55,000 employees, as you mentioned. I can imagine that now you need to understand technology, and you need to understand how to analyze data. It will come across as a handy skill. You can't sit and scroll down an Excel spreadsheet for 55,000 for 55,000 people. So what I'm understanding is just based on what you're saying, and also the trajectory of where we are going as human beings, and we've seen with the pandemic, it has forced us to think differently. Being able to analyze these things technologically is key. Things like data, you can't do it like, you can't open an Excel spreadsheet and then you want to count one by one and you want to sum. We need to understand.
Excel doesn't even exist anymore. Like Excel is from 19 long ago.
So. All right.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating. And I mean, I can hear the passion that's coming out of it. I think you spoke also about, if you want to get into human capital or human resources field, you need to really be passionate about people, and you can see it. And that's why I was like, because you can see when someone is misplaced and someone is in HR, but they don't really love people, you can see there's no drive, there's no there's no excitement, and I think it's coming in, like it's coming out naturally off of you. You can see, Uguti, this is something that you've been wanting to do. So thank you for that. Thank you also for talking about the thing. It's stuck in my head that subject choice are important, but it's not necessarily because of where you want to go. Sometimes just choose a subject based on your strengths, and you'll never know where you're going to go. You know what I mean? So like at school, for example, they don't offer courses like technology. They don't offer courses like robotics and things like that. Those are things you can do like when you get to varsity or whatever. But at school, for you to be great, otherwise I feel like we constantly trying to match up with the standard that the world has created. And sometimes that standard is not really who we are. Like you're forcing yourself to be a math student, a pure math student, and you're not, whereas you can do the other maths. What is it called again? Pure maths, and then I don't want to say artificial maths, but the other maths that people do, that other one. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Do well in it and pass, and then go to tertiary and then study whatever it is that you would like to study. And also, like what I like about it, based on your story, we're still finding ourselves. You may not know that you love working with people when you're still in tertiary, and then you get to varsity, when you're still in high school and then you get to tertiary, you still don't know. But when you start to do work like professionally, you discover that actually I love this. I love working with people, you know. And then when you discover
Mm,
you love working with people, even there, it's still an opportunity for you to change. You can still change, like how you
yeah, yeah.
you know. I think maybe let's talk about that change. How important is, I mean, I think maybe let's start with your role as a coach. Maybe let's start there first. And then how important was it for you to get a coach to be where you are? And also, yeah, but I'll ask the question. But the other question I wanted to ask is, when is it time for me to start looking for a coach? How soon can I start looking
Mm,
for a coach in general, you know, but
mm,
specifically with regards to the career?
Oh my goodness, I wish I had a coach in high school when I was choosing my subjects. Because maybe I wouldn't have gone through the path of having to find myself very late in life. And that's precisely why I went into coaching. I'm so passionate about, the youth, and exposure to information is so important. When you're sitting in a high school environment, there isn't much exposure around what is available out there in the world. There are a billion career choices, but I think in the country that we are in, we are still very much narrow-minded around how we choose our careers, because we still want the traditional go and be a doctor, go and be an engineer, go and be an accountant. And if you're none of those three, you kind of like, okay, so what do you do? Everyone is always asking you 10 times over, what do you do? But I mean, there are so many valuable careers out there. And I think having a coach to help you understand who you are. And I think the core of choosing a career is a life choice. It's literally going to be for the rest of your life. And it's a choice that will influence many aspects of your life. So if you are unhappy in your career, you are going to have an unhappy life. It's as simple as that, because your work plays such a big part of who you are. You spend most of your time at work. So it's so important to choose a job that you love and that you are passionate about. So I really think coaching is such an important intervention to help people really understand and unpack what they're passionate about and finding who they are, and who they want to be. So, coaching really does come in terms of that. And I mean, when you're still young, you're still 15, 16, you're not sure, and which is also okay. So sometimes you may also venture into something to try it out. There's nothing wrong with trying something out and it not working. I think the world today is such that pivoting your life is actually quite easy. There's so many platforms available online now where you can do a certificate in this, certificate in that, and all of those things actually add up and count. So the whole thing of you have to have a degree is not necessarily, it is very important. If we say the foundation of having a formal qualification is important, but that qualification must not lock you in, where you just like, now, okay, I'm an accountant for life, kind of thing. So I think, yeah, coaching plays such a huge role and is a passion for me. So for me, I got a coach very late in my career, and it was in a point where I was just hating my job. I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't passionate. In fact, I literally even remember the day that I walked into my first job. I was like, I'm giving myself 10 years and then I'm done. And when the 10-year mark hit, the frustration actually really did start hitting me, where I was just like, I'm still here. I'm still not doing what I know I should be doing. I'm still not feeling fulfilled. I've always been a person who wanted to bring change. And the change that I was bringing about in the job that I had was just not the kind of change I wanted for myself and the world. And I wasn't showing up as the person that I know I am. So I definitely knew that something needed to change. And luckily, my organization afforded me the opportunity to get a coach. And in coaching, oh my goodness, it's not only about just thinking about your career, it's absolutely so holistic. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about who I am. I learned so much about the kind of person I want to be. And I learned so much about then what my next is. You know, coaching is about thinking forward, moving forward, doing great, striving. It takes you from good to excellent. So, yeah, getting a coach was absolutely a life-changing decision for me because, like I said earlier on, I once dabbled and thought about being a psychologist, but I was just like, man, I'm not about to sit listening to people's traumas. And oh, I'm the kind of person, you tell me a sad story, I'm crying with you. So I wasn't going to be the greatest psychologist crying with my clients. So I thought about all those kind of things. But I promise you, the day that I had my first session with my coach, I knew that I needed to be a coach because coaching it's not therapy, but it's absolutely therapeutic. And it really is such an amazing change tool. And that's what it's all about. It's about changing your life for the better and moving forward. So yeah, like I said, coaching is phenomenal. I mean, if I could coach children even before they move into the high school, from primary school to high school, in life, there's just so many traumatizing phases that you are not prepared for. From primary school to high school, that's a huge mind shift, mind change. You're just like, oh my word. Then 2 years in, they're telling you must choose subjects. Now you're still like 14. What do you know about life? You have to choose subjects, and those subjects are going to determine the career that you go into. And then when you move from high school into university, completely different environments. You are not prepared for the difference that comes from high school to university.
Absolutely.
University, you on your own, you have to figure things out. There's no teacher that's going to be babysitting you and saying, come stay after class and let's do extra maths. If you fail, you fail. You're on your own. So you need to have that resilience to be able to adapt to the environment. Then stepping into the corporate world is another, oh my goodness, that is another aspect where you're so used to operating in a certain way, but then there's absolutely a whole corporate culture that you now step into where you have to behave a certain way, you have to speak a certain way, you have to exert yourself in a certain way, you know. And let me tell you, corporate will swallow you. So you also need to find what is unique about you for you to move in your career. Because if you are number you know, let me say 44,000 out of 55,000, you will get lost in the system. So absolutely passion and will take you to where you need to be, because then when you're passionate, like I said earlier on, you then operate on a level of excellence.
Optimally. Yeah. No, thank you. You mentioned coaching from primary school. Oh.
Can I tell you, actually, so my husband recently just told me that he had a coach in primary school, and it was because he wasn't
not a soccer coach, not a sports.
Where did you grow up having a coach?
Not a sports coach, ne?
No, a coach. I'm gonna. I was. Where did you grow up?
Here in South Africa.
In South Africa, girl. So he wasn't behaving, and his parents were just having trouble with him, you know, boys being boys. So they brought a coach over, and the first thing that the coach did was she asked him to show him his room.
Okay.
And he says that his room was a mess. Bed not made, windows closed, curtains half open, plates lying around, you know, a mess. And the coach was like, your life is the way it is because this is the environment you wake up in every single day. Ever since, can I tell you, Mr. OCD, like you need to start your day, make the bed, open the curtains, open the windows. And that stuck with him for life, where the way in which your environment determines your mindset. So that I was just like, child, you should have been a coach. You know, I'm just like, I was really amazed. But I mean, having that opportunity for him absolutely changed his life for the better
Mm,
thereafter.
yeah.
Yeah. So you can really, coaching is really something that, as long as somebody understands when you speak, they're ready for coaching in my mind.
Sure. And now you're helping with parents as well that have students or kids that like it's like your husband's story. It's not always psychology. It's not always that you need to go to a therapist or
Mm.
go to a psychologist, but coaching is also another tool that we can use to help somebody shape up their life and sort of make it make sense, because it really is that, like with a coach, if they do know you, I'm just thinking of one, this a sporting coach. um we have a vision, and the vision is that we want the best out of these people that we have. And yes, winning is part of it if we win, but let's utilize the skill that we have as best as we can and encourage them to show up, whether it's in a soccer team, whether they are competing with other kids or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm coaching you to use what you have as best as you can in order for us to get to that goal that we need to get to. And sometimes we just don't know who we are. We just don't know what we want. We
Yeah,
don't know where we're going. So,
yeah,
I mean, for you to say that in your senior years, I mean, you're not that old, but it's late. You would have wished to have known and done things much earlier. It just shows how much some of the things could be prevented if you started right. So I like that. The start is important, and I'm hoping that
yeah.
even if it's not a professional coach, I'm hoping that people, because maybe people can't afford, but I'm hoping that especially our students will find courage to reach out to people they look up to in society, and
Yes.
and and have a conversation with and see if those people can't help them. I may not personally, as Ayanda, help you in your human resource capital desire or your passion for humans and stuff, but I can either point you to the right person, or I can help investigate things for you and do research for you, because maybe I have access to the internet or whatever. So until you get to a point where you get like a coach. But also what I like about it is that I don't have to have one coach, right?
Mm.
At a time.
Yeah.
I can change my coach depending on the different seasons. Right now, maybe I'm still in high school and I can have a coach just for high school, just to finish high school. Then when I get to varsity, maybe my high school coach is not going to be relevant anymore. Then I can move to the one that will connect me to the works, to the corporate space. So tell us about that. Like, is it a thing that I don't have to be stuck with one coach? I can change. And what determines what makes me change my coaches?
Oh my goodness, there's so many different kind of coaching techniques out there, because coaching is also not just about talking. You actually use a specific model on how you actually deliver your coaching. So, I mean, coaching a person who's in primary school versus coaching a person who's an executive, obviously very, very different.
Certainly.
So, in fact, it's encouraged to have different coaches, because then you get to experience different kinds of coaching, and that will actually tap into the way that you think, and transform you in a different way. So like I said, there's coaches, execs, CEOs have coaches. They're encouraged to have coaches, because when you're in that role, you the big boss, everybody's looking up to you and relying on you. It stops with you. That pressure is, I can imagine. I mean, I feel it in my little world, in my little role, where I'm just like, if I don't have the answer, no one else does. I have to find the answer myself. So just having a coach to just clear your mind is just such a wonderful opportunity. So pivoting and having different just like you said, like if you equate it to sports coaching, the coach that you have in primary school versus high school for soccer might not be the same coach, but you will learn different skills from them and be a
Absolutely.
better soccer player because of that. And you even see with our South African teams, they change coaches every other day. There's a new coach for this team, there's a new coach for that team, and that change is good, because once you get comfortable with your coach knows your life story, your coach knows you since you were born, kind of thing. Maybe the value you might be getting from that experience might be might what's the word, flatten out. Getting somebody who's new with a new perspective, who will spark new thinking, who will provoke you in a different way, is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that, yeah, finding a coach, even for different things, not you can find a coach for your career, you can find a coach just for your life. If you're feeling like, oh, my life is just not where I need it to be, that's the benefit that I got from my coach, which ended and just immediately transitioned me into career. She didn't career coach me at all. I found that on my own because of the journey of self and understanding who I am and where I am in my life. But maybe at points in my life, I'll decide, okay, now I need to think about where I'm going with my career. What are the kind of things that I might tap into in human capital at the level that I am at? So a career coach is actually something that I might even consider in future to say, okay, so what's my next?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounding so exciting. So it's just sounds like I mean, I can't believe who your coach when he was so like we are missing out. So many.
Hey, I don't know who you have been listening. I'm just like, I only knew about coaching like 5 years ago. You sitting here knowing what a coach does, and you're not telling me.
Hey, these people must tell their secrets, man. Hey, they must just. But that's actually quite cool. I think more than anything, and in everything, no man is an island. That's just basically what I'm realizing, that there are a lot of people, some people that even go and get trained in this regard to be coaches, so that they can help you with your various life cycles and stuff like that. So whew, guys, I think we should consider it. We should consider getting a coach and stuff. And you can Google, you can check and see, just like you would Google nearest doctor, nearest restaurant, you can Google nearest life coach, right? And just find, from the different institutions and stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, a lot of coaches out there have content which is applicable to anyone. So you may not necessarily have the funds to get a coach, but you might find a video where a coach is speaking to you without even knowing you. I think research is so important in everything and in every decision that you make. So I really think that there's so many available things and resources out there. There's the great thing is that coaching is a career that is growing. And you see a lot of these motivational videos that you see out there are developed by coaches. So even just listening to a 1 hour motivational video on a daily basis, that's a way of coaching yourself to start your mind thinking positively, kind of thing. So absolutely, I think looking out there in the internet and finding, and you'll also find that there's coaches who are willing to do pro bono work. I'm one of them. Because I'm so passionate about it. So, I mean, yeah, and like you said, besides finding a coach, there's people in your life who can act as coaches and a mentor to you. And I think, finding somebody who inspires you, who is doing amazing things, somebody who you see is thriving in their lives, go and ask them, how did you get there? What are the key things that you did in your life that got you to where you are? What motivates you? What keeps you motivated? Just asking those kind of questions. People love talking about themselves. I mean, I'm in human capital. I'm telling you, ask the right question, a person will talk about themselves. So I think not being afraid to go up to that teacher that you love and admire and saying, teacher, can you just please be my mentor? Or can I just ask you a few questions about life?
Yeah.
They'd be more than willing.
Yeah.
They'd be more than willing.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
I
just
think
about learning from the people around you.
yeah, yeah. And I think also just being courageous, because going and asking somebody that has never said, hey, I'm a mentor, anyone who wants to come to me and wants to ask for mentorship, like, I'm here, and going to somebody that didn't do that is not always the easiest, because some people, the moment you mention, can you coach me, can you be my mentor, for them, that's a big word. And they think, no, I'm
Very.
this, and then they dismiss you, and be courageous enough to say, look, my objective is to find a coach or to find a mentor. And even if I come to Ayanda and Ayanda doesn't have time for me, or I go to Khanya and Khanya is busy or whatever, my intention is that I'm going to find someone. And also, whatever you believe in, I believe in praying and asking God for guidance so that you can be led to the right people that's going to help channel what's inside of you already, to help harness that is inside, because you also don't want to be with someone that's going to want to live their lives through you and coach you in a direction that is what they want
Yeah,
to do and not what you
absolutely.
so it's quite important
Yes.
to find someone who's going to bring in from inside of you what you already have so that you can show up. Otherwise, you're going to be very miserable. I
Yeah.
mean, being misplaced is the worst in the world. It's incredibly painful. But yeah, no, you've given me a lot of thought. Yeah, and I mean, guys, she's being used in her things for school and for work. And let me tell you, she was able to help me see things I didn't even know about myself. Like, you think you know yourself. That's the thing. Like, you think you know, but you don't know what you don't know. And having a conversation to appreciate myself even when things weren't going right. And I think for me, that's like actually has, I mean, doesn't matter if I have a desire that I want to do 1, 2, 3, or if I'm not defined, help me to please change your mind. But yeah, I think about one last thing before um, any advice you have for people that are applying. Let's say now I'm done with varsity, I'm almost finishing my CV. I'm going to be submitting my CV. I know there's a lot of artificial intelligence that has been sort of embedded in our processes and stuff. And you find, Uguti, when you're submitting your CV, you've been submitting CVs to companies, and I mean, you qualify and everything, you see your skill set, this is what they're looking for in the job description, but for some reason you don't get accepted. I'm not saying that there's no other people that are applying. I'm not saying competition is not playing a role, but are there things that could be preventing me from not getting a job based on how my CV looks like?
Absolutely. So interesting that you mentioned artificial intelligence. I think a lot of the big organizations actually have, in fact, a lot of the online tools as well, like Career Junction, which recruiters use, have a system in place where they basically scan your CV. And if it doesn't align, if you don't have specific keywords that align with the job description, it kicks you out immediately before a recruiter even gets to see your CV. So by the time that the recruiter sees the CVs, they're probably seeing 150 out of 2,500, basically. So I think it's important for people to understand that when you apply for a job, take the time and energy to read the job description that you're applying for, and almost just pick a few words that align to the job description and add them into your CV. So for example, if the job description says they're looking for somebody with what kind of skills are out there? Help me. I don't know. If they say that
report writing or
yes, report writing, let's say. And maybe naturally report writing is something you don't really do, but you are capable of. There's nothing wrong with writing something in your CV as a skill, even though you haven't had much exposure to it, but you know you're capable of doing it. So don't limit yourself to say, oh my gosh, I've actually never really done that. But if you were put in a position for you to write a report, then say it's something that you are capable of doing. And the beauty of that is that once you get into the interview stage, this is when now the conversation starts and you can really clarify exactly who you are and what you mean about the words that you've written in your CV. So I know it's very difficult, especially if in your place where you're always applying for a job. I know that the job markets at the moment, unemployment is rife in our country, but take the time and energy to read through the job requirements and see if your CV aligns appropriately, and just put in a few keywords from the job description into your CV so that at least when the robot compares job description to CV, they're like, okay, there's 3 matching words. Let's put this person through, kind of thing.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that sort of summarizes it nicely, because you're also giving us tools on how to get jobs, and especially when we do qualify, especially when we have the matching requirements, the qualification as well.
Yeah.
They said it's just to change words and phrase them according to what the job spec is, because already it's been built in the system that this robotic or this artificial intelligence ability must pick up certain things. So yeah, as much as we possibly can, let's try. And also what I'm learning is you can't make your CV standard for all job applications.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that you update
Absolutely.
it according to the job description of the job you're applying for.
Yeah.
And even if they're looking for the same skill sets across, but always just align it to what has been reflected.
And I also want to mention that the cover letter is such an important thing. I don't know why people still submit CVs without a cover letter, because your cover letter is your opportunity for you to tell your story and tell who you are, and not even necessarily about the job career. You can speak about what you're passionate about, really bringing forth the person behind if you send me a CV with just, oh, I went to this school and these were my marks, and then I went to this university, these are my marks, you competing with 200 other people who have exactly the same kind of piece of paper. And what I'm looking for as a hiring manager is the differentiator. Yeah. I'm not going to find the differentiator in your subjects. You got 60% for maths. Okay, good for you. You know what I mean? But who are you? Who are you? What do you think you're going to bring to the organization? Go and look up what the organization is about. Many organizations have absolute websites where they speak about their brand, their culture, what they aspire to. Make sure that as well your cover letter then speaks to, I would love to work for your organization because I believe in your philosophy, I believe in your brand. Speak to all of those things. Those are the things that attract a hiring manager to say, okay, actually you made an effort, you understand what this organization is about, and over and above that your qualifications actually do match what I'm looking for. So let's see if we can have an interview and see where it goes further. So cover letter, super important.
Okay. Hoo-ha. Thank you. Learned so much. And talk the entire day, but we can just leave it here. I think we can just leave it here for now. But friend, I just want to thank you so much for affording me the opportunity to have this conversation with you, and also your valuable insight. It's been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I did. I was so nervous. I was like, I'm usually the one who's asking questions, not the other way around. So I was just like, I feel like I'm going for an interview. But actually, the conversation was so lovely. I really, really appreciate you asking me to come through. And yeah, I'm really, really excited. You're doing amazing work, Ayanda. I think this platform is just so, so important. Like I said, exposure is everything. And the people that I see that you're bringing onto this channel are really, I think, people that people can definitely learn from. So thank you so much for also being of service.
Thank you so much. You're gonna make me cry, but I think let's not ruin the moment. Let's just talk about what are the things that you do for fun, and then we can just leave it there. Do you even do anything for fun other than loving your job?
To be honest, I coach for fun. It's kind of that's what happens when you find something that you're passionate about. Like, I promise you, after every single coaching session, I feel so energized. I feel like, you know how marathon people say they love running? I'm like, for me, coaching is that. After coaching, I get energized, I feel inspired, I then walk into my job feeling better. I walk into my life with my children feeling lighter, more energized. So I think at the moment, what I do for fun is definitely coaching. And then over and above that, I think definitely spending time with my children, the little kitties. We love swimming. So we're always in the pool, and always just doing like, fun activities. Unfortunately, COVID has put a damper on some stuff that we used to do, because we used to love going out and trying new places. But yeah, in the small world that we live in and in our tiny little environment, we still try to do things that that we love doing. So I always say that I'm coaching my children through life. So hopefully they are my original coaches. I'm coaching them every day.
No, thank you. And I wish you all the best in every single thing that you're going to do as you're growing yourself in the coaching space and as you're growing yourself also in your career. I wish you all the best, all the best. Continue to be the shining star that you are. And I'm grateful that I know you, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I'm grateful I know you too.
Thanks, Fred. Let's just leave it there.
Thank you so much.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to DM me if you are also doing amazing thing out there. We are going to schedule a session with you where you tell us more about what you're doing for a living. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, look forward to the next episode. Keep well. All right, Ngani, bye.
Bye. Thank you.